In Pensacola, Florida, it all began when a series of alarming calls started pouring into emergency dispatch. Callers reported that a shooting had taken place at Home Depot. According to witnesses, an armed man had opened fire inside the store. The entire incident lasted only moments. After the shots were fired, a young woman collapsed to the floor. Several witnesses saw the gunman run out of the store. According to those at the scene, the victim was a young woman who had been shot by an adult man. One witness said they couldn't understand what had happened because the attacker had simply walked up to the woman and, without any apparent reason, opened fire. Deputies with the Escambia County Sheriff's Office arrived at the scene on North Davis Highway within minutes of the emergency call. Among the first law enforcement officers to reach the crime scene was Deputy Sam Shell.
17497. Multiple people outside confirming shooting down by the garden center.
That's for traffic for a unit.
The shooter's gone. The shooter's gone out. This way. He went out this door.
What was he wearing?
I couldn't see it.
A real light faded blue shirt with two white stripes.
Light faded blue shirt, stripes down the side. White male ran back toward Davis Highway. Go ahead. Is there any victims I need?
There's a victim down on aisle 52 right here.
52.
We'll confirm victim on 52 continuing traffic.
He ran out. She's gone.
174 confirmed signal 7.
There's multiple shells.
Yep, we're just
713
yeah, because we got casings. Don't kick them, please. We're okay. At that point, we're good.
That's deceased?
Yeah.
Hey, let's clear on out here.
Yeah.
By the time the first responders arrived, 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims had already died from her injuries. Brooklyn worked for a company that had a contract with Home Depot to conduct inventory counts. That day, she was counting merchandise in aisle 52 when the attacker appeared to deliberately single her out as his target. 2 other employees were working alongside Brooklyn. They were also injured in the shooting. Merchandise had been knocked off the shelves, leaving the aisle littered with scattered items. Among the debris, investigators found 6 spent 9mm shell casings and 3 bullets. At that point, it was still unclear exactly how many shots the gunman had fired. An autopsy later revealed that Brooklyn had suffered at least 7 gunshot wounds. In total, the medical examiner documented 29 gunshot-related injuries, including entrance wounds, exit wounds, and graze wounds. She had been shot in the head, shoulders, torso, and back, and some of the injuries indicated that the shots had been fired from close range. The entire attack lasted only a matter of seconds.
I heard it in there.
I didn't hear
Home Depot.
Oh, I heard Home Depot.
Fuck. Probably just missed them.
Or still in the parking lot running.
They run out, yeah.
Right outside the store's main entrance, law enforcement officers questioned employees and witnesses, trying to get a description of the gunman as quickly as possible so it could be broadcast to every patrol unit. Meanwhile, Brooklyn's supervisor, Sheila, desperately pleaded with the officers, hoping to learn at least something about what had happened. Afterward, she paced nervously near the entrance for a while before slowly making her way across the parking lot.
Got him, you got her.
Okay.
All right, what happened?
Okay.
What you got?
That's my truck right there. I was
Okay.
in my truck. I just loaded up. I started the truck. I saw the guy run around the corner. He had on a blue jacket, black male,
What's his name?
25 to 30, 6'1", slim build. He had a Glock 19 in this hand running. When I saw the Glock, I went, oh shit. I started out across the parking
So
lot.
black male around in his 20s, 6'1", Glock
Mostly
19.
blue with white stripes on the sweat jacket, workout jacket. Zip up the front workout jacket. I knew I should have hit the car.
It's none of this is your fault. None of this is
Should
your
have
fault.
hit the car. Does anybody want to go and look at the exact where he ran in case he threw the gun?
Yeah, we got a million people. We got dogs coming. We got the whole thing.
Just minutes after the shooting was reported, the Pensacola Police Department notified the sheriff's office that a firearm had been found on the shoulder of Davis Highway, not far from Home Depot. It was a Glock 19 pistol. A single live round was lying nearby. Scratches on the gun suggested it had likely been thrown from a moving vehicle and landed near the sidewalk. Ballistics testing later confirmed that this was the same firearm used to fire the bullets that killed Brooklyn Sims. Meanwhile, at Home Depot, the store was completely evacuated, and customers and witnesses were gathered in the parking lot. Several members of the inventory crew had been standing nearby when Brooklyn and the gunman exchanged a few brief words just before the murder. One witness said he heard an unfamiliar male voice. At first, he thought the man was simply cursing. Brooklyn was focused on counting merchandise, leaning toward the shelves. The witness recalled the man saying something like, "You think I'm joking with you?" Or, "You think I'm playing around?" After those few words, Brooklyn didn't even have time to respond. She had only just started to turn toward him when the attacker immediately opened fire. According to the witness, there was never an actual conversation between them. The man spoke only a single short sentence, and Brooklyn never said a word in response. Among those at the scene was one person who could provide investigators with especially important information. It was Brooklyn's supervisor, Sheila Agg. She was extremely close to Brooklyn and even considered her like a daughter. Brooklyn had been seeing Sheila's 20-year-old son, Keith Agg, on and off. The couple shared a 15-month-old daughter.
Can you confirm her name for me?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I
one at
got
a
to talk
time.
to the
Come over
police.
here.
I'll call you later.
I was gonna say she probably ain't gonna be able to talk right now. My name is Glenn.
Okay, okay. Okay, and what is the victim's name? Her name is oh, okay. I thought that was your name.
No,
Brooklyn
I'm sorry.
Taylor.
Yeah, that's Brooklyn.
Brooklyn Taylor.
My name is Sheila. I'm sorry.
Did you hear or see anything?
No, I was in.
Okay, and so you.
I heard gunshots, and I just.
Okay. And how far away were you from this? To be, must have been close because you heard him.
Yeah.
And you heard him say, "You think I'm playing with you?" And then next thing you know, like 7 gunshots.
I just heard the foul.
Do you know her well at all to know if she has?
I know her.
Does she have a baby daddy?
Yeah, my son is her baby daddy.
Your son is her child. Have they been having issues?
No.
Okay, what's your son's name?
Keith.
Are they broken up?
Oh, they hadn't been together in years.
But they have children together.
One baby. They hadn't been together since the baby was born.
And they don't have any issues? Blackmail your son? No? Okay.
An officer escorted Sheila and the other key witnesses out of the blazing sun and into the shade, where their statements could be taken calmly and officially. As he was confirming her personal information, her name, social security number, and date of birth, Sheila suddenly became ill and appeared to lose consciousness. The officers immediately rushed to help her. They called for paramedics, tried to revive her, and reassured her that an ambulance was already on the way and that everything would be okay. After being evaluated by emergency medical personnel, Sheila received the necessary treatment and was later transported to the hospital by ambulance. Because of that, she was unable to provide any further statements to law enforcement at the scene. Investigators later interviewed her several times in detail as part of the investigation. In the end, however, investigators did not actually need Sheila Agg's help to identify the gunman. Just minutes after the shooting, Sheila's son, the father of Brooklyn's daughter, called emergency dispatch and said that he wanted to turn himself in to law enforcement.
I'm trying to turn myself in.
Okay, where are you at?
Pensacola, Alabama.
Pensacola, Alabama?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know what street I'm on.
What are you trying to turn yourself in it for?
Ma'am?
What are you trying to turn yourself in for?
I made a mistake. I don't know.
No, you're fine. Just calm down. We'll get someone to help you.
Man, look, I threw my gun. I don't have a gun, but I just want them to shoot me. I can't.
Okay, you're fine. Are you at a business right now?
Can't be trying to tell me in front of the IMAX. That's what
you're at the movie theater?
That's what it is.
Okay, are you in the parking lot of the movie theater?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm in the parking lot by myself, and no cars around me. They'll see me if they pull over here.
Okay.
Law enforcement officers found Keith A.G. alone in his silver Nissan Sentra parked in the middle of the lot outside the AMC movie theater. To show the officers that he was no longer a threat, Keith took off his shirt to demonstrate that he wasn't carrying a weapon. After fleeing Home Depot, he had run across the road, left his car in the parking lot, and then wandered through a nearby wooded area for some time. During his escape, he crossed a creek before deciding to turn himself in to law enforcement. While taking him into custody, the officers asked him exactly which body of water he had crossed so they could retrace his route and search for any potential evidence. Keith calmly followed their instructions, walked to the designated spot, and sat down as directed. The officers also asked that items be removed from the back of the patrol vehicle so he could be safely placed inside after his arrest. Once Keith AG was in custody, along with his 911 call in which he admitted that he had made a terrible mistake, investigators had the answer to the most important question: who had opened fire and brutally murdered 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims? What they did not yet realize, however, was how many lies and hidden details would come to light once Keith began telling his version of events. He was taken to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, where he was advised of his Miranda rights. After that, Keith broke down in tears. Investigator Martinez and Officer Little then persuaded him to speak openly about his relationship with Brooklyn, his relationship with his mother, and what had ultimately driven him to commit the murder.
What we can try to do is,
Don't understand. Well, help us. We want to understand, but before that...
How about we start with just your name? I don't even know who I'm talking to. How can I understand if I don't even know who you are? Right? I told you who I am.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. It does too, because I don't want to be talking to no stranger.
Nobody cares about it. Nobody gives a fuck.
How can nobody give a fuck? We don't even know who your family is to be able to tell anybody.
They don't care.
During the interview, Keith told investigators that he and Brooklyn had been in an on-again, off-again relationship. Although they had never lived together, they shared a daughter named Casey. He admitted that his temper had repeatedly been the source of conflict between them. According to Keith, their arguments often escalated to the point where he would start destroying property. He had smashed Brooklyn's phone, broken a window, and damaged furniture. Because of his behavior, Brooklyn had previously obtained a court order prohibiting him from coming near her. Despite that, the two had recently started spending time together again. Keith said that just the previous weekend, they had spent time together with little Casey, trying to live like a normal family. He claimed everything between them had been going well. That changed the morning he received a call from Greater Mobile Urgent Care informing him that his test results had come back positive for gonorrhea. After that call, Keith decided that Brooklyn was the one who had infected him. Instead of looking into the disease's incubation period, or determining whether she could actually have been the source of the infection, he reached his own conclusion and convinced himself that she was responsible. That realization filled him with rage. At the time, Brooklyn was staying at a hotel because her company was working an inventory job in Pensacola. Keith began calling her, trying to find out where she was. During the interview, he said he believed everything between them had been fine up until that point. They had spent the weekend together, relaxed, played with Casey, and on Monday he had driven Brooklyn home. Later, he tried to contact her, but she didn't respond to his messages. According to Keith, she had called him that morning, but he missed the call. When he called her back, Brooklyn said she was rushing to the hotel for work and would talk to him later. Keith claimed he wasn't upset over whether Brooklyn had been involved with anyone else. According to him, what angered him most was his belief that she had given him a sexually transmitted disease and refused to admit it. He said he asked her to be honest if it was true, but according to him, she denied having anything to do with it. Eventually, they blocked each other. Keith also speculated that Brooklyn may have been lying because she worked with his mother and didn't want to damage her reputation or lose her job over something like that. Keith went on to explain that after the call from the medical clinic, he finished his shift at Calvert Steel Mill in Alabama, drove home, picked up his handgun, and then headed for Florida. Along the way, he stopped only once in Loxley. He said he thought about what he was planning to do and even considered giving up on his plan. In the end, however, he kept driving. Home Depot surveillance cameras captured Keith entering the store, still wearing his work clothes with reflective stripes across the back and sleeves. The footage showed him heading almost immediately to aisle 52 where Brooklyn was working. Only seconds passed before he was seen running back out of the aisle. By then, the shots had already been fired. According to Keith, he approached Brooklyn and accused her of infecting him with a sexually transmitted disease. He claimed she simply brushed off what he was saying. Briefly turning toward him, Brooklyn allegedly said, "Oh, not this again," before turning back to her work. One of her coworkers laughed. That was when Keith opened fire. When Keith was arrested in the AMC movie theater parking lot, he left the shirt he had been wearing during the murder inside his car, along with his cell phone. After he confessed, investigators informed the 20-year-old Keith that his phone would be seized and examined. He knew exactly what they were going to find. Wearing a sheriff's office jacket that had been given to him to keep warm, Keith asked Officer Little to come back into the interview room. That was when he made another significant admission. He had lied to investigators earlier. He told them detectives would soon discover text messages he had exchanged with his mother earlier that same day. In those messages, he had told her in advance that he was on his way to kill Brooklyn.
I had texted my mama beforehand.
You text your mama what?
I had texted my mama beforehand.
Okay.
Okay. And y'all got my phone. Y'all got to open that date too. I was lying when I said, I was like, you know what I do? I was like, I'll shoot somebody in front of the police and get away. I was talking shit. All this shit's coming back to me at once. And
that was today you text her that? Gotcha.
3 days after the murder, when investigators recovered data from Keith Agee's phone, they were able to restore deleted text messages between him and his mother. Those messages revealed the true extent of her involvement in the crime. The conversation began at 10:37 that morning, just 2 minutes after Keith received the results of his sexually transmitted disease test. The exchange continued for nearly 2 hours, ending at 12:40, about 40 minutes before the first call reporting the shooting at Home Depot. At first, Keith asked his mother to confirm that Brooklyn was with her in Florida. He wrote that when they returned, he was going to shoot the mother of his child. In the message, he claimed that Brooklyn had done nothing but cause him financial problems and infect him with a disease, so he was going to shoot her. Instead of trying to calm her son down or persuade him not to go through with it, Sheila replied that she would let him know when they got closer to Alabama. She also added that if he didn't come and kill Brooklyn, then he was a coward. A short time later, Sheila suggested a different plan. She told him there was no reason to wait until they returned to Alabama, and that he should come to Home Depot and do it there instead. She explained that if Keith opened fire after they got back, their little daughter Casey might witness the murder, and Sheila herself could also end up getting shot. In one message, she even told him not to shoot at her car because she didn't want to die. Surveillance cameras outside the main entrance of Home Depot showed that during this time, Sheila was standing near the entrance, apparently waiting for her son to arrive. She repeatedly paced back and forth, regularly stopping to type messages on her phone. In one of her next messages, Sheila wrote that if Keith had already finished work, she would send him the store's address so he could drive there immediately. Keith quickly asked her to send it. He replied that he was already on his way to Pensacola and again asked for the address. He also wrote that he was tired of what he believed was Brooklyn constantly hurting him and then acting as if he were the one overreacting or behaving irrationally. At around 11:45, Sheila sent a message asking whether he was really prepared to sacrifice his own life, his little daughter's future, and put the entire family through pain over the situation. Almost immediately afterward, however, she added that she would make sure everyone found out that Brooklyn had infected him with a disease that required him to seek medical treatment. She ended the message by telling him she would send him the address in 10 minutes. Over the next 40 minutes, they continued discussing the planned attack. Keith wanted to make sure his mother had not warned Brooklyn about his intentions. Sheila assured him that she had not told Brooklyn anything and had not contacted law enforcement. She also advised him to delete their text messages from his phone. The same day those messages were recovered, investigators from Florida traveled to the Washington County Sheriff's Office in Alabama to interview Sheila Agee. Because there was no specialized recording equipment available, they placed a body camera on the table to record the interview. During questioning, Sheila claimed that her only involvement was that Keith had texted her saying he believed Brooklyn had infected him, but also assured her that he had decided to let it go. When investigators told her they had recovered the deleted messages from Keith's phone, Sheila appeared surprised. She had not expected investigators to have all 32 pages of their text conversation. When detectives began reading individual messages aloud, Sheila immediately became defensive. She claimed that after the first few messages, she had told Brooklyn about them, and Brooklyn then took her phone and began replying while pretending to be her. According to Sheila, she had been trying to calm the situation down, while Brooklyn's responses only made things worse. Investigators quickly pointed out numerous inconsistencies in her story. They explained that her version would require the phone to have been constantly passed back and forth, one message written by Sheila, the next by Brooklyn, then another by Sheila. That sequence did not match the content of the messages and simply wasn't believable. Investigators also reminded her that they had more than just the text messages, they also had surveillance footage. They told her directly that she had given Keith the store's exact address, encouraged him to come, failed to warn either Brooklyn or the police during the nearly 2 hours he was driving to Pensacola, and then lied to law enforcement at the scene after the shooting. In response, Sheila was left with essentially one explanation. She insisted that she never believed her son would actually carry out his threats. According to her, Keith often said things like that in the heat of the moment, and she had dismissed his messages as just another set of empty threats. She also claimed she had no idea he was armed. Investigators reminded her, however, that Keith had explicitly written that he intended to shoot Brooklyn and had also said he would force open her car door if she refused to get out. Sheila could only repeat that she never believed he would actually go through with it. In the end, Keith A.G. was formally charged with first-degree premeditated murder. His mother, Sheila A.G., was also charged as an accomplice to the crime. Both were held without bond. As they awaited trial, Brooklyn Sims's family and friends struggled to come to terms with their devastating loss and tried to understand how such a tragedy could have happened.
She could walk in a room and not say anything and just light up the whole room. I'm gonna miss that about her. It's a reason people used to call her my twin. Like, it's not just because we look alike, we act alike too.
Brooklyn was a soft-spoken young lady. She had a smile that would light up a room. She's a daughter, she's a sister, she's a cousin, and most importantly, she's a mother.
Because the last time I talked to my sister, she just wanted to be a good mother, raise her daughter.
After Brooklyn's death, her young daughter, whom she had been raising with Keith, was placed in the custody of Brooklyn's mother, Cornelia. Keith A.G.'s trial began in December 2023. He did not deny that he had killed his former girlfriend. Instead, the defense argued that the crime had been committed in the heat of passion rather than as a premeditated murder. That distinction was crucial for Keith. A conviction for first-degree premeditated murder carried an automatic sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. If the jury instead concluded that it was second-degree murder, he would at least have the possibility of one day being released. During the trial, Keith took the stand and personally described to the jury what he claimed he had been feeling that day. Despite the overwhelming evidence showing that he had spent hours planning the murder, exchanging text messages with his mother, obtaining the Home Depot address, retrieving his gun, and deliberately driving to Florida, Keith claimed that when he finally saw Brooklyn in aisle 52, his anger had supposedly faded. According to Keith, he suddenly felt calm and even believed he could have simply turned around and walked away. However, he claimed everything changed the moment Brooklyn brushed him off. According to his version of events, that was the instant he impulsively decided to open fire.
I was enraged until I arrived on aisle 52. When I got to aisle 52, seeing Brooklyn brought sort of a sense to me, brought me back down to earth. You know, being hot the whole way there, driving mad, seeing her kind of brought me back down to earth. So I remember pointing out my finger. I never got close enough even to touch her. I said, "Hey, you gave me something." And she said, "Not this again," and turned around and proceeded to walk off from me.
How did that make you feel?
I've never been so mad in my life.
What happened next?
I pulled my firearm from my waistband and I proceeded to shoot Brooklyn.
Keith A.G. was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Although it could no longer affect the outcome of the trial, after the verdict was announced, prosecutor Bridget Mears Jensen submitted documents to the judge containing text messages exchanged between Sheila and Brooklyn just days before the murder. Among those records was a message Brooklyn had sent on August 5th. She forwarded a photo from her doctor's appointment. The message confirmed that her test results showed she did not have any sexually transmitted disease. Only later did Keith admit that during the 2 months before receiving his own test results, he had been sexually involved with at least one other partner. That significantly undermined his claim that Brooklyn was the one who had infected him. The case against Sheila A.G., however, proved to be far more complicated than the case against her son. After all, it was Keith who made the decision to kill Brooklyn, retrieved the gun, and deliberately drove to Pensacola intending to carry out the murder. Sheila's trial began in November 2024. After the presentation of evidence concluded, the jury deliberated for nearly 6 hours, but was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. As a result, the judge declared a mistrial. The reason was misconduct by one of the jurors. According to the court, during witness testimony, that juror had repeatedly been working on a crossword puzzle, raising serious concerns about both his attentiveness and his impartiality. It was that same juror who could not reach an agreement with the rest of the panel, leading to heated arguments during deliberations. 2 jurors even told the judge they had felt unsafe during those discussions.
Well, I didn't know that was a bad thing. I did not do it. I do that when I concentrate. I have something and I'm listening. You couldn't see the bench or the witness stand very well because it was dark. But I could hear it. I was listening and that's just the way I do. I just do that. And I had no idea. And then when they told me that I wasn't supposed to do it, I stopped. And then today, when we went in the jury room, I had another crossword puzzle. It became obvious to me right away that I was in the minority, like a minority of 1 against 11 people.
Sheila A.G.'s retrial began in August 2025. The defense urged the jury to consider one central question. What motive could Sheila possibly have had for wanting Brooklyn dead? According to her attorneys, there was no logical answer. Nearly everyone who knew both women testified that Sheila treated Brooklyn like her own daughter. In addition, the text messages exchanged between Sheila and Keith that day included messages in which she reminded her son that his actions would permanently destroy the life of their young daughter. She also warned him that if he committed the crime, his future would end behind bars. However, even if those messages could be interpreted as attempts to talk Keith out of the murder, Sheila still had to explain the other messages in which she gave him the address of the Home Depot, encouraged him to come to Pensacola, and failed to warn either Brooklyn or law enforcement that she was in mortal danger. During closing arguments, the prosecution argued that Sheila's actions had effectively guided her son to his victim like a guided missile locked onto its target. The defense, in contrast, insisted that every message Sheila sent was intended not to assist the crime but to prevent it. Her attorneys argued that she simply did not believe Keith would actually come to Pensacola and carry out his threats. According to them, he regularly said things like that, exaggerated, and lashed out emotionally, but had never acted on those threats before. For that reason, the defense argued Sheila never intended to help cause any harm, and that was the central issue in the case. Keith himself also testified in his mother's defense. Although during his own trial, he had claimed that he did not finally decide to kill Brooklyn until the moment before he pulled out the gun. This time, he told the jury that Sheila could not have done anything to stop him. According to Keith, he had always done things his own way, and once he made up his mind, no one could change it. He claimed that the events of that day could only have unfolded the way they did. In his view, nothing his mother could have said or done would have prevented the tragedy. On the contrary, he testified that she did everything she could as a mother to persuade him not to go through with it. During cross-examination, the prosecutor asked only a few brief questions. He reminded Keith that on the day of the murder, he had driven to Pensacola intending to kill Brooklyn, but did not know where she was until his mother gave him the exact address. Keith acknowledged that was true. When it was 52-year-old Sheila's turn to testify, she began by describing previous occasions when Keith had made similar threats, but she had been able to calm him down and convince him not to act impulsively.
Brooklyn went to the doctor. And I mean, they don't show that, but she did. Mm-hmm. And it come back as a vaginal bacteria. She did not have gonorrhea. I'm not going to lie on my baby. She did not have that. And I text that to him. And he's like, oh, well, Mom, I'm so sorry. Tell her I'm sorry. And I was like, Keith, you tell her you're sorry. You know, you're the one. And he was like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna grow up now. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna be a better person for Casey. And
Sheila's explanation of the 2-hour text conversation that took place before Brooklyn's murder was inconsistent and confusing. She tried to walk the jury through each message one by one, while insisting that her unusual way of communicating with her son was actually intended to discourage him from committing the murder. According to Sheila, although it may have appeared that she was supporting or even encouraging Keith, she never wanted Brooklyn or anyone else to be harmed. She explained that each time her son sent another aggressive message, she tried to redirect his attention away from Brooklyn and toward their young daughter, Casey. She said she repeatedly reminded him that his actions would destroy his own child's life. When she realized that approach wasn't working, she claimed she changed tactics and tried to redirect his anger toward herself, hoping to draw the threat away from Brooklyn. After the close of evidence, the jury deliberated for just under 3 hours. They ultimately found Sheila A.G. guilty as an accomplice to first-degree premeditated murder. As with her son, the law required a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Immediately after the verdict was announced, the judge imposed that sentence. During the sentencing phase, Brooklyn's mother, Cornelia Sims, addressed the court. In her statement, she spoke about the devastating loss her family had suffered. Cornelia also spoke about the pain of her young granddaughter, who was growing more and more like Brooklyn every day. She said that because of this tragedy, the little girl had lost not only her mother, but also her father, who was now behind bars, and her grandmother, who had been convicted as an accomplice to the crime. Cornelia emphasized that it was all the result of an entirely preventable tragedy.